Alright, so today I have a little project I have to take care of. You can see here my collar for my axe that I handmade. Got a little chewed up and started to rip off, so I cut it. Where it was ripped, I got rid of it, and I left this, kind of a straight line there where it's still good stitched together. To do this repair, all I need is a good needle to sew with. I'm going to use some wax thread. It's actually like an artificial sinew. And I have some leather here I'm going to use for the repair, but I've got it soaking in water so that when I wrap it around here and I sew it, once it dries, it should tighten up really nicely around there. And hopefully this will perform better than the last one I had on. The last one, see this little ripple right here? I don't know if you can, it'll show up on camera. There's a little ripple right there. I doubled up on the leather right here for the front, thinking more cushion would be better. But what it did is it made it protrude farther out on the side, which made it get hit more, which is why it got damaged. So I'm just going to use a single piece of leather this time, keep it thin, but get it really tight, and hopefully it'll last a little longer this time. So I've got my leather, which is soaking wet, out of the water. I'm just going to dab it off here so it's a little easier to work with. A couple paper towels. I don't want it dry, but I don't need it dripping wet either. I'm going to double check the fit here, make sure it still looks good. But it looks like there's enough of a gap as it is. I mean, I could pull it much tighter. Yeah, maybe I will cut on that black line and I'll use the thread to really pull it tight. Yeah, it stretches pretty good. So let's cut that. When I wrap it around, I want there to be a gap at first. I'm relying on the stitching, pull that tight. And I think that should work. Might need to trim up that leather a little bit, or I could leave it. I mean, make sure it's a nice tight fit. And then I can get my needle ready to start sewing. Simple as that. I think that should be good. Now I'm hoping I can just tie a little stop knot here in the thread, and that should be enough to hold it. Okay, so we got our first stitch. As you can see, once you pull it, it'll pull that nice and tight. and that'll really cinch everything up really tight. And you see how it's pulling away from that top? I don't want that. I may need to add a little Gorilla Glue to get this to stay up there. I don't know. We'll see. I don't want the whole thing to slide downward. See, when I pull them tight, it wants to shrink it, so I pulled that too tight. That's okay. I'm gonna fix that. Before I knock this off, I'll try to readjust everything here, get it to seat where I want it to before it dries. There we go. See? You slowly work it. It'll get up there. Like I said, if you needed, you could put a little Gorilla Glue or something, some kind of leather glue or glue that will stick to both leather and wood before you made that adjustment and slid that up, You could always just add a little. You could have done the same thing, put a little bead of glue down around the bottom. But I feel like this is going to hold tight, especially once it dries. I think it'll be fine. I mean, it's something to get destroyed anyway. It's just, I'd rather that get destroyed than my axe. So let's tie this off. But I think when that dries, that's going to dry nice and solid. And one thing I did forget to mention that I am going to use for this project also, this is what gave this part of because this is the same leather, that's what gave it that brown look. So I'm going to use some of this dye on there once it dries. All right, well, my repair is dried. Let it dry for 24 hours, and that worked out almost better than I thought. You can see here where it overlaps, that shrunk super tight against it. And the stitches also got really tight. If you remember, I was moving that before, and that won't move now. I mean, that's really tight. So there we go. Simple, easy repair for the collar guard.